Kamala has a new strategy. Streamlined, never before used. Trump's a fascist and literally Hitler.
You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist, comparing oneself in a clearly admiring way to Hitler.
You have to laugh. This is so dumb. And today, the whole mainstream media is just running with this. This is obviously on the backs of the John Kelly interview that we talked about yesterday and picked apart. I guess this is like their October surprise. Sweet. Great job, guys. Anyway, speaking of that town hall, it was a total disaster for Kamala. I was just sitting there, like sipping my tea last night, smiling away, especially on this one.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life, or in your life in the last 4 years that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, you know, if you've ever parented a child, you know you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
This woman who is incapable of admitting she's wrong, and two, because that precludes her from learning from any mistakes that she might have not said she made. Let me just reiterate what she said in that answer. Quote, "I've probably worked very hard at making sure that, I'm very well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question." What? This is Kamala Harris, CNN town hall, the greatest orator of our time. It's unbelievable. The question was, is there something that you did that was a mistake? Did you learn from that? And after like stumbling through a bunch of stuff and ums and uhs, she pivoted to, quote, "Anyone who's ever parented a child." Not you. Kamala Harris doesn't have any kids. When she married Doug, his kids from a previous marriage were 14 and 19. They also primarily lived with their mother, not Doug and Kamala. Self-proclaimed Mamala didn't parent anyone. This is like the most important thing of this town hall that I really want to blow this out of proportion, because forget all of her non-answers on policy and everything else. This goes to show her perspective. Claiming to know what it's like to be a parent? That's like someone who never served in the military, who just like went to the gun range one day and just nudging me at a bar like, "Yeah, I'm a SEAL." Like, no, oh yeah, you know, we know what war is like because I went to the... Shut up. You don't know anything, and don't ever talk to me again. Kamala Harris has never had a sleepless week with a sick child, still having to get up and go to work in the morning to keep the roof over your head. This should be offensive to every mother out there. She has never had those types of responsibilities, yet will stand there and try to use someone else's kids as a means, a political pawn, to relate to an audience on stage. This is one of the most disingenuous things I have ever seen. But to her actual answer, "I'm well versed on issues, and I think that's very important, and feel compelled to answer a question." Then answer a single question. Nothing. No. Never. Nada. Never. She doesn't do anything. Like on the border, she was asked directly.
Do you wish you'd done those executive orders in 2022, 2023?
I think we did the right thing, but the best thing that can happen for the American people is that we have bipartisan work happening, and I pledge to you that I will work across the aisle to fix this long-standing problem. I think the American people are demanding it on both sides of the aisle, and it's time we actually put the partisan approach to this aside. We know what can work.
Kamala Harris may be the first person in the history of ever to lose a debate to herself. You did not do the right thing. She, as the borders are, undid a bunch of Trump's executive orders on the border, and it got really out of control. Then, when it became politically unpopular, she had Biden reinstate those executive orders and claim success. And they still blame Donald Trump for all of it somehow. Well, there wouldn't have been a problem if you hadn't have undone those executive orders in the first place, lady. Undoing those led to Americans being raped, killed, dying of fentanyl, other overdoses, and over $150 billion with a B taxpayer dollars being consumed by a bunch of people, millions of them actually, who shouldn't even be here in the first place. Some of that money was pillaged from FEMA and now isn't there to help American citizens who had their lives washed away by a natural disaster. I mean, great round of applause for you people. And still, she doesn't think she did anything wrong. She showed no remorse for any of the consequences of her actions. The other thing that caught my eye, and I really haven't seen a single fact checker look at this today.
It is something that we have to be honest about and we have to deal with. As Attorney General, I actually published a hate crimes report on a regular basis, and anti-Semitism was among the highest forms of hate in our country, and this was before October 7.
So we checked, actually, ourselves, that crime report. Now, according to her own report from 2012, the hate crime in California report, it did not list anti-Semitism as the most common hate crime. In fact, again, this is from her own report, the most common hate crime was race. The second most common was sexual orientation. And far below that, the least common on her list, was religion. Anti-Semitism was, in fact, the most common of the religious category, but the number of incidents was a fraction of race or sexual orientation. I swear, she just goes up there and just starts making stuff up, like she doesn't think anybody's going to check. But I think the most important part about this was what Dana Bash, loyal CNN anchor Dana Bash, said after this whole thing wrapped up.
Tell you what I'm hearing from people who I have been talking to, and that is that if her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that.
Understatement of the year. Not only did she not close the deal, she didn't answer a single question. And David Axelrod, Obama's guy, David Axelrod, noted that.
The things that would concern me is when she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city, and she did that on a couple of answers.
Pretty much all of them. And another CNN commentator on CNN noted this was a gift to Republicans.
Republicans would take another hour of Kamala Harris. We'd just press play, let her keep going. We'd pay for another hour to let her keep not answering the questions. I think Anderson's asking her, well, why haven't you done it? You've been there for 4 years. Why have you done any of this? And the word salad answer she gave to that was just mind-boggling. I mean, it's blown up the internet, her answer to that question.
Yeah. She didn't take responsibility for one thing. She lied, she impersonated being a mother, and disrespected some of the people in their questions to such an extent that even CNN and Anderson Cooper, look, I don't think he did a bad job on there, but at the end of that, people are like, what the heck did I just watch? Here's the thing. I have taken a lot of people to meet Donald Trump, okay? People who liked him, hated him, whatever. Never have I walked out of that room without that person that I brought there, even my own wife, by the way. Never have I ever heard any of them say anything but wow after meeting him. Every single person who I've ever brought to meet Donald Trump has been impressed. I have never met Kamala Harris, and I never intend to, but I have talked to a lot of people who have. And this has always been their, look at their faces. There's always been their reaction after meeting her. Everyone. Like, what did I just witness? How she got to where she is proof that in the Democrat Party, diversity is a qualification and failing up is the norm. 12 days, and I hope she just fades away.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.